Happy New Year and welcome to the Make Life Rich movement, Eva.
Happy New Year's. I'm so happy to be here. Sarah, thank you a lot. We randomly ran into each other on Instagram.
I came across your content and was obsessed with you. First, the industry that you're dominating in right now, I was like, wow, okay, I need to know more. Guys, let me give you just a little breakdown of what you're going to get today in the very first interview of 2024. It is so fitting because Eva packs the heat, guys. She is a multidisciplinary entrepreneur, investor. She's dominating a very male specific industry and market, and she's been doing so for the last 7 years. We are going to touch on all things that she gets her hands into, and I would love to have you back. I'm just going to ask now for another episode in the future where we talk all things spirituality. We're going to keep it business today, but guys, she is so multifaceted. You're going to click the link in the show notes for her Instagram. You're going to be obsessed with her. She's so much fun. But Eva, thank you so much for coming on. That was a very long intro, but I'm obsessed with you. You're right. We met on Instagram. Your energy is everything.
I literally had chills when you were saying all that. And sometimes it's cool to hear it back. I'm like, yeah, I do all that stuff. And I am so spiritual.
Yeah, you have a very long list of accomplishments, and I would just love to. You've been an entrepreneur many times over. You're a hustler in your own right. Um, in your personal life, you've had to be in charge of yourself for a very long time, and that long road of hustling and trying different come ups where you were kind of just able to make jumps on each thing that you were doing with your sales led you to construction. Please tell us all about your beginning of construction industry entrepreneurship.
Cool. So when it started, I already left, as you said, these other businesses that I had in Arizona. And when I left Arizona, I think I was 24 or 25. At that time, during my run there, my business run, it was from, let's say, from 25 to 19, so like 6 years straight. I had all these different businesses. So I had a lot of experience. I had 18 employees at max, a whole bunch of different kiosks, store, salons. And then at the end, rental cars, because I would always just roll over my money. I always say act like you're poor until like live below your means, and then always reinvest your money into money making activities. So when I kind of felt on my soul that I was just making money, I felt like I was trading my time for money. I wasn't really passionate about any of those things. They were just business that paid the bills. So, and that's just not who I am, right? So, when I wanted to kind of get out of, like, let's say, survival and go into more expansion, I moved to San Diego and sold the cars, the rental cars, and I started going to construction courses. Like, I was already when I knew I was going to move to San Diego, I got my real estate license that I never used, and then I started going to these courses, meeting people, investing in the courses, and then I learned that you have to like pay to play. Like that's when I started paying for my experiences. The quality of people I was around were like they really matched my energy, and they were finding houses to flip and to invest on, just like I was searching for myself. But I ended up becoming a private money lender for a friend of mine. We're still friends to this day. We still do deals with each other and work with each other. It's been 8 years now. And through that experience, learning construction and seeing the investor side of things, as I was hitting the phones, calling people to see if they wanted to sell their house in California, most people don't want to do that because it's obviously a cash cow. But they're like, we don't need to sell our house, but we need to replace the roof. And being the industrious person I am, I'm like, oh, well, I know contractors. Like, let me introduce you. And that's how I started getting into this, where I felt like the liaison between two parties, bringing them together and communicating it well for the homeowner to feel safe and secure, going not only making the decision of construction to go with the contractor, but also to feel safe throughout the process. Partnered with a lot of great GCs along the way, and of course, I always attribute all my success to be working with really great people, and that's
Yeah.
how that happened.
Oh, I love it. I think your ingenuity and your personality were the perfect fit for this. And it makes a lot of sense that most of the people that I interview here find a gap that needs to be filled. and the gap intrigues them enough that they're like, oh, that's weird. Like, why hasn't anyone figured out something about this? Like, well, let me just do this. Like, I'll fix this. So I love that that's kind of how this came together for you because it really does speak a lot about just your habits and your personality and your discipline to take on something completely out of your wheelhouse to land in what is, I would imagine California is quite a difficult state to do construction and any kind of work like that in. So was it a really steep learning curve? How did that work for you?
For sure. Such a steep learning curve. Yeah. I mean, even still to this day, construction is the hardest thing I've ever taken on in terms of business, because it's always challenging me. You're always learning something new. And any contractor for 20, 30 years will still say it because every house is different, every customer is different. Ground up versus old construction. It's just there's just different animals, commercial versus restaurants. And for me, what has helped a lot has been mm, always just asking questions. Like I love how you said filling in the gap because that's how my mind works. I look at like where are the holes, where are the problems, and then from there I'm like, okay, how do I make sure this problem doesn't happen? And then there it's like a Google search, right? That's why I always just say things can be so simple if we just ask the questions on Google. Like, thank God we're in 2024. And I would learn as much as I could. And when I would meet with the contractor, I feel like they really respected me because it's like going to a country and speaking their language or trying to. They're like, wow, look at this girl who is actually trying to do what she can to not waste our time asking these questions, but she's doing her own research first. Then she's coming with us with these really well-rounded questions. So she's taking it seriously. And then on top of that, I'm communicating to the client in a way that puts the contractor in good light. And I think it's those personality traits that I had that helped me become successful in this business. Because if I wouldn't have had those, people wouldn't have responded to me in the same way, and they wouldn't have wanted to like work with me and give me another job or trust me with their business. You know?
I think it's important to state that there are a lot of people right now that don't really like the way that entrepreneurship is going, namely, everything's digital, everything's online. If you're not a person that likes to be in front of the camera or, selling something, entrepreneurship can seem a little far off these days, unless you're looking for something more traditional. But I think that someone with a personality that likes being in front of people, that is a good problem solver, like those skill sets are something that not everyone has or not everyone cares to use in a professional manner. But I really do enjoy that all of your special talents kind of coalesced in a way that made this a perfect fit for you. And I think this would be a great fit for someone who has similar attributes to you, that, you're adventurous, you're always learning, you don't really take no for an answer, I'm assuming. And, you're always looking for that next bit of information that's going to help you figure out how to unlock the puzzle you've got in front of you. So it's just beautiful to see that everything that you are is kind of lended really well to this thing that's brought you so much success and purpose and passion in your life.
I have chills when you say that because it's something that I've just become very aware and hyper grateful for this past year because finally things are all starting to come together. But when you're in the middle of it, like when I was in the middle of doing construction, it still wasn't my dream come true. Like I wasn't helping people. I wasn't like, I didn't feel like I was changing the world, which is the reason why I left the first rounds of business in Arizona. But of course, like you still have to pay the bills and you have to trust that the universe, that God is having you do things for a grander picture. But for the first like 10 years of my life, like especially in the business world from like let's say 19 to 30, I was like, what am I doing? Like I'm not passionate about any of this stuff. Like I'm just making money. I'm not helping anyone. And now this year when it all started to come together, I was like, oh my God, like this is why you had me have these stores, and like I'm not passionate about selling like these skincare products that we had, and like it's just not helping anyone. It's just a transaction. And but I did that, and I had all those employees, and I had to hire a lot of people and vet a lot of people and fire people and like let go, like all of this stuff. I learned those skills and those management skills and the CRMs and organization. And then I took it into construction, and I'm not really passionate about construction, but I do really great because I have all the skills. And then
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like, oh shoot, for 10 years, that's why I had to do all of this for it to come
Mm-hmm.
together. It feels good.
That's really beautiful. And it's amazing. Again, so many people that I interview, that is their case. They've been picking up the breadcrumbs like Hansel and Gretel style all along until the moment, to where like, I forget who said the quote, but it's something like, luck is like passion and opportunity, or like hard work and opportunity meeting at like a
An
specific moment.
opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, like that is what your journey in a nutshell. And most of the super successful people that I interview, it's like they say there was a moment where they can turn around and they were like,
Yeah.
okay, 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 okay.
Yes. Now I just always tell people, like, one of my soapboxes, I have many of them, but I'm always just saying, like, do it anyway. Like, even if it feels like weird or you don't know, like, try it. Because even if it's not for you, like, you're going to learn something that will take you to another place. And
Hmm.
we always change too. Like, one year this might be great for us. And then 5 years later, we maybe we go through a break, but we don't do it. And then 5 years we bring it back. And it's just
Hmm.
all of it's adding up to our big picture.
Yeah,
Probably
for sure.
personally too,
Yeah,
along the
yeah.
way.
I think it's also really interesting that certainly you want to feel in your heart that you're helping people and like have your work be giving you that understanding that you're doing that. But I would imagine you are bringing at least two parties a whole lot of help and a whole lot of support during what can be a really difficult time. We don't want to, no stereotyping, but construction is difficult and it can get messy. And especially for people that may have never hired a construction worker before, and all the twists and turns with changing of the budget and timelines. And, there's a lot that can cause friction. And I just love so much that you found a way to insert yourself to smooth that process out for both people, which I would imagine brings them a lot of peace, which you're helping them with. So, could you tell us a little bit about what some of your projects have been like and how you kind of are the liaison between two for someone that maybe has never dealt with a construction project of any kind?
Okay, so I always explain it like we always want to hire professionals for stuff. It's like if you're trying to learn to be a doctor, you go to school and you learn from someone who's done it. And if you're gonna do open heart surgery, like obviously you wouldn't do that yourself. You wouldn't watch a
Yeah.
YouTube and try it. You would hire a professional. And we do that for everything. Like as a woman, facialist, acupuncturist. I do all the things, and I'm not gonna do those things myself. Like I need to hire a professional, and by doing that, it's open the world, like everything for me, because it gives me the peace of mind like you said. And with
Hmm.
clients, I know sometimes because construction's not really, obviously it's regulated, but it's not necessarily regulated in the way that it is for real estate at this moment. And you kind of need that in between party to help translate the communication between construction world and regular world. Because what I
Hmm.
learned but when I was doing this is let's say if my GC was on the job and I wasn't there, and let's say the client comes and tells the GC that she wants something, and the GC's like, yeah, I got it, I'll do it. And then let's say if I come to the job site at the end of the day and then the client's not happy, and then I find out why, and she's like, oh, I asked him to do this, but then he did it like that, and that does not look good. And I realize it's there's just so many the language barrier just in terms of how construction is spoken and how someone understands it misses 50% of the time, and then the customer's left unhappy. They have work that the contractor wants to be paid. So it was kind of this magic sweet spot, and I really feel like women play a really powerful role in construction. And I speak about this a lot because, like, in feminine and masculine energy, like we know that we honor both sides, and they each have their own place. So where my contractors are amazing at doing the work, and honestly, like I mean, their bodies can do stuff that mine can't. And even if I could, it'll take me 4 times longer. So I
Hmm.
really respect and honor them and their headspace. I don't want them bogged down. Like maybe they don't want to talk to the customer, maybe they just want to be in their work. So that's where I come in, and I'm like, I give the customer peace of mind. I explain to them the process. I give them an hour of my time where the contractor's like, time is money. I only have 8 hours in a day, and you want me to finish this like yesterday. So when I come in and do that, the other role that I notice the feminine energy helps me a lot with is that I'm very like detail oriented and aesthetics. Like I look at something and I don't look at it like how do we get it done, which is a contractor's way, and sometimes that's how you can have like a conduit, which is an electrical like an electrical metal tube that can get ran on the outside, but it can get routed inside too. But sometimes you'll see it outside and it's like a woman would never let that happen. Like it just doesn't
Mm-hmm.
look good. But a man, he's just trying to get it done.
Mm-hmm. I love the detail aspect of things. It's often gets overlooked, of course, but it's in those after moments where just those subtle details can really not only bump up the quality of the work, but also, as you said, the happiness of the client. You are receiving a majority of your clients through referrals, you said, correct?
Yeah.
So I would imagine that this detail that you have, this insane attention to detail, is absolutely keeping people very pleased, and not only pleased, but impressed to where they want to tell others about you. And, I'm sure there's been a moment or two where some of the people you've worked with have had nightmare scenarios in the past to where they were very hesitant to really take on any kind of big jobs again. Could you tell us a bit about what it's been like for you, I guess, I would imagine it's part like project management, part therapy. Do you ever really, like construction's a fickle beast and, people can expect things to be done a certain way or a certain time frame and that doesn't always happen. So what would be like your best course of action when you do have to have those moments of really like delivering bad news or calming down an upset client?
Yeah. I love that. You asked really great questions.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So the number one solution for this is always trying to mitigate everything from the beginning and manage expectations from the beginning. So like looking ahead and seeing where problems will arise and then mitigating them by talking to the contractor like, hey, do you notice that? What do you think is going to happen here? It's a lot of side conversations for sure because you're like, hey, contractor, like, is this possible? Like, are you sure it's going to be good? And he'll explain to you the process. And because you know your client, you understand what they're looking for. And how to speak to them about this problem. So, number one, manage expectations. So, I will actually sit a client down beforehand and I go over this whole like checklist with them of like, hey, not every construction project is perfect. There's a 50% chance that this is going to be amazing for you. And there's also a 50% chance, like, even though we did our best due diligence to let you know what possibilities could go wrong, some other things probably will go wrong. It's just there's like 100 million different details and screws and just crazy things, and they all layer on top of each other. So I explain that process to them, and I say, okay, if something were to go wrong, like, do you have contingency money, which is in contractual language would be money that they have set aside, that if something were to go awry, they're not going to be like left without funds to pay for it. And because that's a conversation ahead of time, they're already preparing, hoping for the best, but prepared for the worst. So typically that has been what saved me the most. And then let's say if I skipped that part, which sometimes I do. Sometimes I get like really confident, and I'm like, oh, everything's gonna be great. And then when we get there, a problem happens, and then how I deal with it on that time, it's typically when a big problem happens, I try to find the solution first, always, every time. And there's a timeline factor. You can't let these decisions linger for too long. So let's say if I'm trying to find the solution and it's taking me all day and I've called different people, different suppliers. I'm trying to work different ideas. If hopefully I have come to a solution by that point, and then I'll call the client and say, hey, this is what happened. This is the solution. I know it's hard to hear, and typically I'll talk to them a little bit first. Like I'll read the room, and then if they're in good spirits, I'm like, hey, well, I have a little bit of bad news, and they take it fairly well.
Oh, you sound like a dream. I've been a part of a few projects and man, I've never had anyone explain to the person that I was working with anything about a contingency plan or, even just the 50-50 number. I've heard 80-20. I've never heard 50-50. So
Yeah,
yeah, your face. I know.
I would say
It's
50-50.
yeah, but I think that just goes to show the integrity that you run your business with. And I think construction seems to get a really bad rap. I think there's a lot of uneducation on the consumer's part, and I think they assume a little bit too much. And I think there always seems to be a bit of a vacuum in terms of the amount of information they're getting that they actually understand and actually know how to move forward with. So I think it's beautiful that you kind of have figured out a way to provide this service seamlessly. I would imagine that it works really well for the GCs too. Do they kind of fight over you? Are they sharing you? Are they referring you to other GCs? How has that been for you on that side of things?
Um, yeah, it's kind of cool. There's definitely like never any fighting because there's just like a lot to go around. Because also a lot of the contractors like we all work with each other too,
Mm.
which is awesome. Like we create a team and it's kind of like networking with friends. Like when you have a friend that you like and they have a friend that they like, you know it's going to be good. So that's how I've really kept all my construction, like the quality, the work vibes, everything grounded because once I met one contractor that was amazing, I just really focused, like, I'm just that human too, where I just focus on that one person. I'm like, how do we, like, I just want to work with you. I want to do your jobs. So, for example, I had this concrete contractor that, like, he's just the greatest human and an amazing contractor. So, for a long time, I just focused on concrete and I learned so much. He then has a whole team of electricians, plumbers, wall builders, fence guys, and we would work through his team. So on every project, we would bring in more people, created a really great environment, and no one ever fought over each other. They would see me and they'd be like, "Oh, hey, Eva, we have like." They would give me leads. Even that's when you know you're doing really good is when these
Yeah.
contractors, when you're not bringing your own lead, but they're saying, "Hey, this client called me to go give them an estimate. Do you want to go give them an estimate instead?" So then I would go talk about what I do, how I know the contractor, and it benefits their business, of course, because like I always say it's easier to sell someone else than it is to sell yourself. So like I can go and like talk my friend up for days, for hours, any of my contractors easy, but my contractor wouldn't go and say the same stories that I'm going to say about him or say how he's a great person or how he showed up for me. So it
Hmm.
definitely benefits them. And then at the end I'll have them leave reviews for the contractors because how I do anything is how I do everything. I'm always like, how do we get the most out of this? How do we all expand? So they love it.
Man, you sound like a publicist for contractors. It sounds
A goal.
the public relations aspect, I think, is the part that's been overlooked. I think people just assumed, well, they need the work done, they're going to hire me, and then I'm going to do it, and I'll tell them, and it'll be done, and then that's that. But
And that
it
is how
does. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
that is actually exactly how it is because contractors aren't necessarily business people. Like they, I mean,
Yeah.
some are, and they don't want to be. It's like an artist, you know, like
Yeah.
they want to do the art and they need a publicist, someone to represent them
Yeah.
and make I really want to change construction and how, like, I know it's so messy now and everyone's having bad experiences, of course, because
Yeah.
they do it often with little education, as you said.
Yeah. But you're really turning it into what feels like and sounds like a luxury service.
Luxury.
It does really like give that vibe off because you are providing again that comfort and the bridge of knowledge that maybe the consumer just doesn't have and doesn't want to put time into. They've all watched like a HBO show about some type of renovation of some sorts, but until you're there, you don't know until you're there. And when you're there, you're like, wow, I would pay someone that knows what's going on right now to tell me what's going on right now. So I can just feel good that my money's being dealt with appropriately and my wishes are going to be met. And I need that door moved over 4 inches because the wheelchair won't fit through. Like very specific things that people don't think about until it comes down to it. And it sounds as though you're one of those people that's thinking about all of that before it even comes down to it.
Yes, part of the role. Part of the role. And always learning too. I mean, there's definitely situations where I've been in where I'm like, oh, didn't think that way. Because, you know, you just don't
Yeah.
know until you learn. And then that's when you just know we're always paying for our experience, one way or the other. Whether if we go to college or if we take on a project and we lose $500 from the total amount because we didn't know. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I paid $500 for that knowledge. No big deal. And
Yeah,
then it
true.
makes you money later.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. So that was more, I'm assuming, of the residential side of things. for the commercial side of things, how much does it differ? Is it a little bit more business oriented then in that moment? Are the consumers, we'll call them the people requiring the construction, are they a little more dialed in as to what's going on? Is that then more of you kind of dictating what they want done to the construction worker rather than kind of helping them figure out what they want done?
Great question. Normally, in the commercial side, they would have already hired an architect and a designer ahead of time, so they deal with that. They also, before they even did the architecture or design, they would have ran the numbers, and they have their their spreadsheet, because investors are typically in commercial restaurants or flipping houses. So then they have a spreadsheet. Um, I'm putting flipping house, and that's how construction's so huge, because you have like investors, commercial restaurant, and flips, which is residential still. But then you have a subcategory of just restaurants, commercial, and then you have houses, residential, where homeowners are living in them. Different beasts, different conversations. Because homeowners living in their house want to talk more. They care more about their peace of mind, about the soul of the house, about ethics. Like it's a different and slower conversation. They change their mind a lot more too, because as it's going through the process, they're like, "Oh, I saw this on Pinterest. Can we add this?" With investors, that never happens. Very, very rare, because the designs really are already set. But the different conversation is going to be in the numbers. It's a numbers and deadline game. They want it done as fast as possible for the best price with high quality. Any sort of change that they make is going to add to the deadline, which is across the board. But for investors, every day costs them money. If they're a flipper on a house, every day costs them holding costs, electricity, and labor that they didn't account for in their spreadsheet. And for investors, commercial, let's say if it's a restaurant or a store, every day that's not open, they're not making sales. So the stakes are higher. It just, the language is different. Money versus emotion, empathy.
That makes so much sense. Which one do you enjoy working with the most? Do you have a favorite?
Oh, I like them and dislike them both for different reasons. Like,
I enjoy
um,
that.
I love in general working with clients in the way that I am now, because it's a long-term relationship and I really love that. I love managing client. I like managing people's emotions in general, but also I hate it sometimes too, because it can be really hard, which is why I like the challenge. It's just a different emotional conversation. I tend to lean into business conversations more. So I like to deal with emotions on money, because I think I have better analogies for that. Of like, hey, it takes money to make money, or you knew it was going to be a risk, or like, hey, I understand that this is tough right now. You guys are investing in a new business, you're expanding your container. So, of course, it's going to be a little uncomfortable. These things are going to happen. It's the first time, but these are the numbers. And then I always like go back into the profits or how we're going to make it work. And I love those conversations. Or, yeah,
Ah,
maybe
so
investors.
fun. So fun. That makes me wonder with the investor side of things, certainly you are an investor yourself, so you kind of see the table from both sides. Did that kind of help you to be able to kind of approach them in a manner where you're like, "Hey, I get it. This is what we're trying to do."
Yes. Yes.
Was there like a moment where you ever kind of had to prove yourself to another business person because they're like, well, what does this hot young girl know about anything? You don't invest in anything. Get out of my face. I'm sure of it. Not to turn this into a sexist conversation, but we can't ignore the fact that you're in a male dominated industry, especially in California.
Yeah, it's happened. In fact, it happened one time when I went for a residential customer. I went to their house, and when the guy opened the door on me, and he was like this older gentleman. And when he saw I was a girl, he's like, where is the, they said our project manager's gonna come, a contractor. I was like, yeah, that's me. I'm a project manager. I've been doing this for 4 years. And he's like, is there like someone else coming? You could just tell he didn't want. He's like, okay, well, I don't. We're not going to continue. I forget what he said. It was so long ago, but he did not want to work with me. He closed the door in my face, because I'm a girl. It was very much that vibe, and that's fine. I was like, okay, the world is evolving. I get it. Yeah, people don't want to waste their time. I think I have a really understanding heart, so like I
Hmm.
understand everyone's living through their own perspective, so it's fine.
Hmm.
And for the investors, I think in the beginning, did I have to prove myself? You know, what's great is when you're investing, you don't really have to prove yourself because you're like they have to prove themselves to you. Like I'm giving
Yeah.
you my money,
Yeah.
and I think because I did that first, it helped me a lot on the construction side because I don't like to sell myself or prove myself or say stories, but I
Hmm.
have noticed even after I've gotten a job. I would not ever talk about what I did that day or how I helped it or da da da. And I realized it actually hurt me because I'm not selling myself, I'm not presenting it. So now I am finding myself in situations where if I want to elevate, I do have to say these stories and I do have to prove like what I have done in
Hmm.
order for someone to digest this young girl.
Hmm. Humility is absolutely something I can tell that you have a lot of. So I would imagine it is probably uncomfortable to go through your Rolodex of accomplishments, especially within this industry. Do you have like a pie in the sky project that you haven't gotten to work on yet? Or maybe you have. Have you had like a dream project you've been able to do yet, whether it was for a client or for yourself?
I do have a pie in the sky. It's I plan to do this to work on this business in 10 years from now because right now where I'm at, I'm 32 and all of my friends, no matter like where they're at, they could be on the scale from a million to like 60 million to even 100 million a year. They're not in a place like they're just reinvesting their money, right? They're not really doing like the Bel Air type houses.
Hmm.
And my pie in the sky dream is doing these like crazy Bel Air houses. This is why it's a 10-year goal from now, when all my friends are established and they can afford this.
Hmm.
But I want to add in feng shui and crystals and like earth elements into every house. So the person that wants it would be custom built to their entire life, and
Wow.
the doors would be positioned in a way that helps their family flow and what they want, and then the wood would all be like very like natural resources with high vibrational energy and like yeah like crystal handles. It'll be bougie, super luxurious.
Oh my God. And very, very balanced and stable, which I think
That's what I
is
want my house
awesome.
to be.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense for you. And I think that is really beautiful because I think at that point, you will truly be able to turn around and say, okay, now my personal life, my personal hobbies, my interests are now aligning with my business in a way that like these last 10 years of construction have been to be able to do this now. Like this, you're
Yes.
giving me goosebumps now. I usually cry every episode over someone's like full circle moment, and I think that was yours. I love that so much.
You are such a Taurus. I love it.
Yeah, it's
My,
bad.
my, my dad was just crying all the time. I thought it was so cute.
I cry every episode. It's terrible. I have to warn people. I'm like, or I'm just like, guys, I'm crying again. It's okay. Can't
That's
help
great.
it. Just drips out of my face. When was your dad's birthday?
April 24th.
Oh my gosh, I love April Tauruses. I'm May 3rd, but
Aw.
all of my Tauruses are in April except for one. But okay, let's focus on your mastermind. So, guys, if you've been listening and you're like, okay, you've piqued my interest. This is something I think I could get into, but like, how do I get started? You have a mastermind that you have launched. It is going to be built throughout the year, but people can participate in it now. So, I would imagine there has to be so much going into this because you're basically covering like, gosh, like what are the different points of focus that they're going to like kind of hone in on throughout the mastermind? Because I can't imagine how much you have to jam into this.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So originally, I started out with launching a course because I had just so much interest in this, and I pre-wrote the course out. And then when I started it and I started coaching people in our container, I realized that it's better to do a mastermind for one full year, so I can coach them to their speed of where they're at, and then create as I'm creating this entire course at the end of the year when it's finished, not only do the students have that mastermind, but the original students will then, of course, get the course too, just to refer back to. And then that course is something I will sell on Evergreen. So this will be the only year that I'm going to do like live coaching and all of that. And in the mastermind, people are asking questions. I'm doing one-on-one coaching in a sense. I believe that you should start a business first with the customers and then fill in the blanks like the LLC, all of that. Like it's so silly to invest all this money into building a website and in 6 months of your time. It's not exciting. Like you need to go and like do the work, have the trial and error, and then once you see, oh, I actually like this, I want to keep doing it, then go invest in the LLC, the website, everything else, the branding. So with my students, I'm launching them through like how to get your first leads, how to talk to them. We're writing customized scripts for them, not only on getting the leads, but the follow-up process, how to find their contractors, how to vet their contractors, what questions to ask, how to speak to them, because if you contractors are very, very particular, especially if they don't know you, you know, like you have to have that relationship. And if you do have to speak to them in a certain way, because if not, you might give them like the heebie-jeebies. They might get scared and like
Mm-hmm.
not scared, but like they don't have time to waste, so they're not spending time on like people that they think is going to give them a headache, right?
Mm-hmm.
So scripts for that, and then that's right now the first phase of the actual program itself. That one was already written, and when I did it, I realized, oh, my students still need help. So let me actually just go further with this. And before I go to the second stage, which the second stage is like sales, like how to communicate in the job itself, and then I'll go over some of the modules. In the modules, we have a module for contracts and contract language, contracts for for the project manager, for the contractor, and for the client. Like, what are the
Wow.
elements that people are looking for? We go into how to like properly vet the contractor, insurances, bonds, all the different types. Basic construction information, like how to actually like measure, how it's estimated by square footage. What else? Managing the client's expectations ahead of time. During project etiquette. What are things you need to look for? Like, what are things you need to make sure to remind the contractor about? So like cleanliness, wrapping things up, because these are like small things, but a lot of people miss them. So you kind of have to have a checklist to make sure it happens. Um, unseen possibilities, like how to understand when, like how to map out all the problems that can happen in construction, and prevent them from happening. Final job, we go over the final walkthrough. So how to do that, how to get reviews. In the modules too, I go over expanding the business, like how to work where you only are working through referrals. And then of
Mm.
course, because I believe that like I wish I would have created a website, so I have that in there as well. Um, but yeah, all this will be created in a year. Really, it's like
Wow.
I'm moving at my students' pace. So right
Mm-hmm.
now, the first couple students, I'm really happy that after we did the first launch in their scripts, they got a few leads the first month. They're following up with them. They're like in conversation in emails. Like they're sending me emails like, "Hey, can you look over the email? This is the estimate that we have. What do you think?" And then I'm on the phone with like their contractor that they're vetting where they live to ask them questions so they can hear what type of questions to ask, how to speak. So it feels really cool to be hands on, and that they get like, I don't know, they get me. They get to like see it happen.
Yeah, I love that so much. What does it feel like to help people through what I'm sure for them at the very beginning is pretty like scary of a process, very foreign of a thing. Like, what does it feel like to be their shepherd, like guiding them through
Oh
the valley?
god. Oh, wish fulfilled. I'm like,
Oh.
I'm on like it's something I've always loved. In my old businesses, when I had the employees, that was my favorite part, was working with them, training them, like finding out like what their like why was, what their mission was, like I don't know, or like going over like, okay, like let's track numbers, like how much money do you want to make today? Okay, well how many people do you need to meet to make that? How many sales, you know, and like kind of reverse engineering things. So
Hmm.
it's cool to do it again with something that I am deeply passionate about. Like I do love construction so much. I just wanted to like help people. So this is perfect. Like I can help people build a profession. It's a business conversation. It's like it's more personal, like personal development, which I love,
Hmm. Hmm.
and make help them make money, which I love. Like it's a dream come true.
Oh,
And
it
they seem pretty like happy. Like, I mean, I'm happy that they're always like thanking me. They're like, Eva, thank you so much for your time. Like, thank you for this. I'm like, this is great. Like, I
Oh,
enjoyed it.
I love that. So everyone all around is kind of just reciprocating in this great energy and this appreciation, which is a blessing. That's super cool that you've been able to build this not only for yourself, but helping other people build it for themselves. And now they have the capacity to bring people into their team and help them figure this out. So you really are creating an army of capable individuals for what has been a pretty gate-kept industry, it seems. So that's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't even know they were gatekeeping. I mean,
Yeah.
contractors were just doing the work and
Yeah.
like, hey, going home to their family. And I'm like, that is how it should be. It's a big
Yes.
industry and it needs more help, which is why, like, I launched that book where I taught homeowners how to manage their construction project 2 years ago because of this. Because it's such a big industry, it needs more help, it needs more
Hmm.
project managers. Because like people get upset at contractors, and I always say, I'm like, listen, it's like actually not the contractor's fault. Like they're literally
Yeah.
doing the best they can. Like they're not like trying to be a business person or trying to be in like public relations or sell you on something. Like they're not a salesperson. They didn't go to school for communication like skills. They went to school to
Yeah.
like learn how to build you this house properly. Like let
Uh,
them live. Let them take a
yeah.
break. Like they
Yeah.
barely have an accountant.
So your construction management workbook, is that available for people to purchase if they're about to get a project done on their house and they're like, okay, I can't hire you because I'm not in California, but I need to feel on track with like what I'm doing so I can be a good client. That available for purchase?
Yes. Yes, it's
Okay, we'll put
available
the link for
online.
that in.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll
perfect.
put the link in the show notes for that.
Yeah, and that's a book I give to all of my students in the master class. It's actually a great book for anyone who wants to even be in project management because
Cool.
in that book I go over everything from vetting your contractors to the beginning to what the process looks like, how to plan your remodel, floor plans, websites to use to design it, scripts to use to hire. I even go over contracts in there, everything that could have kept the homeowner safe. So it's kind of a great book for someone who's interested in project management, but they just don't know if they want to go all in to
Hmm.
read through that first and maybe even try some of the tricks out with their friends or if they have a construction project.
Beautiful. We'll include that because I was going to ask you to give some tips for a homeowner that's going to be going into a first project. Maybe they have no idea what to do, but we'll just tell them to get the workbook because you're efficient and that thing's going to be detailed and thorough, and there'll be no more questions after they purchased it. So
Exactly.
we'll just
Yes.
leave that right there. Um, I would love to know, what do you think is next for you in your construction business? Do you want to expand? Do you want to be taking on more people to train to be like you so that you can work on larger projects? What do you have in your mind for your construction business?
I will go just completely deep, balls to the wall with this online course and business because the goal for that is to ideally, I mean, I really want it to be like almost a certification where large developers, large contract, like large businesses will look for project managers that have received certification through me. Because in this course, like it's not just project manager. Yeah, it's a really big goal. Like I will love it. Like just huge companies like, "Hey, are you certified through this company?" Because I'm teaching more even about like just the communication aspect of things, which I believe is the most important part in life.
Hmm.
It's so underlooked and undervalued, but I mean, this is why lawyers are paid so well because you need to have that mediator, that buffer that knows all things and can place it together. Because if not, people are going to fight like cats or dogs. They're going to think,
Hmm.
"Oh, you did wrong," and the contract's like, "No, you did it wrong." It's like, "No, guys, you just weren't speaking the same language. Let me help you."
Hmm.
That's number one goal. And through this, I'm creating like where I'm taking in everyone's information, all contractors from all across the United States. I'm vetting these contractors. Like I'm going to create a huge system out of this where people can come to me for, hey, I'm a project manager in Florida. Do you know contractors in this area? I'm looking for this, and then I'm able to send them that person already vetted. Um, yeah, things like that. What else? That's gonna be my main focus, and I'll always just do 1 to 2 projects a year just to keep going. But I think what's going to happen is I'm eventually going to just start partnering with my students, because even my students ask me like, hey, these bigger projects are coming, they're going to commercial deals, will you partner with me and help me? And I think that will be the next move, because also I'm like always accepting like investors. Like if someone were to email me right now and say, hey, I have a house in Idaho that is a fixer upper, my friend wants to sell it off market, so we don't pay realtor fees, it's in a great neighborhood but needs some work, like someone could literally message me for that and I'd be like, oh great, I might be interested. Or I have like, if I'm not, because like all of the investors, we're always tying our money up in deals, but then the moment the money comes out, it goes right back into something. So I always email this list to people. So I'm like, hey guys, like however anyone wants to work with me, like real estate, it's so simple, you know, there's so much
Hmm.
available that I can find deals to partner with people. That's the goal.
Oh, and it will
2006.
all be. It will all be, girl. It is all going to happen. You are a manifester, and I think you have just such a talent to take your very abundant energy and be able to spread it around and make magic happen. It's really fun to watch you work through the gram.
Thanks, thank you. Yeah, work with Eva. I'm like, watch me work. It's what I've been doing for a long
No,
time.
they're going to follow you. I'm going to put your Instagram in the show notes. It's been a pleasure. I'm sorry we're at the end, but my final question for all of my guests is this. Eva, how do you make your life rich?
A lot of prayer,
Oh,
constantly. Prayer for everything, right? I'm always just thinking the walls and the chair I'm sitting in, and I'm just in always positive thoughts about everything.
that got me. Same. That's really beautiful.
I know that's why
Um,
we attracted each other. I always say that I
totally.
can only attract people in my life that are like really great, high divine, like genuine heart and genuine soul people. And I just love that that's how I met you. Like, what do you
Oh,
like?
thank you. Yeah, you were, it was a beam of light. I was like, who is this? Follow. My gosh, my bronchitis cough sounds like a smoker's cough. Eva, thank you so much for being on the show. This is not the last time you will hear her, guys. I cannot stress enough that you need to become a part of this mastermind. When I say that she is not only giving you the groundwork and the foundation for a very profitable business, she is giving you the keys to your very own empire. Do not sleep on this. If this was something that intrigued you, you can learn how to do it. You just have to have the drive and the ambition. And if this piqued your interest, please reach out to Eva. She is very accessible on Instagram. Give her a little DM if you have a project you want to work with. But more importantly, get in that mastermind because I can't believe how much you've jam packed in this thing. It's insane, actually. It's actually insane. It's like a college course.
It
Like
is
they're graduating from a college with all of this information.
100%. Yeah.
And you're getting 7 years of her information packed down into a year of hands-on education to put yourself where you want to be a year from now. So do not sleep on this if you're into it. We'll put the link for that in the show notes as well. Eva, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much. I know you have to travel tomorrow and I don't want to keep you any longer, but this was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing.
It was really great connecting with you.